Going live! Woo-hoo.
All right, we are live, and let's see if we get the notification. So for those here, hopefully people can be joining us. We're trying to find out how we get this to work. This is the first time for those that are watching this that we're actually doing a LinkedIn Live through a LinkedIn event, and trying to see if I can get the supposed to work. And I'm not seeing it. Do you see it in your notification, Shiri?
No.
No. Okay, isn't that fun? So let me go to the event. Let's ask Ayala. I wonder maybe because we're an organizer.
Yes, I do see a notification. We're big. Yeah.
I just got it. Great.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it. And so now anyone who's coming in, we got 4 people. Thank you, people who are joining in. We got the link. We'll be starting shortly. We just want people to know if we have any questions whatsoever, feel free to ask them in the comments. We will be bringing your questions up. If you have any questions that you want to keep discreetly, that you want to be anonymous on, because maybe it's personal or about your workplace or anything, if you send me or Shiri a LinkedIn message, we will address it and we'll make sure, right, anonymous, you know what I mean? And we promise not to disclose any information. Anyway, so I think soon let's get started and let's start to introduce the Shiri, shall we? So Shiri, thank you so much for joining us. This is like a long time in the making. I'm going to give a little background on a little bit what the hell's going on for those that don't know. So LinkedIn Live is a feature that I've had personally for my profile for over 1.5 years, and Wadi Digital's had it now for a few months. We did get access. Hi, Mom. Hi, Aviva. Hi, Mom. You got to say hi to your mom. Your mom's here.
Hi, Mom.
Adorable. So we finally got access to, and then we got access to the events. We were one of the few companies in Israel to get LinkedIn events before everyone else, before the live. And that was before the pandemic. That was like in January. And then the pandemic happened, so they rolled it out to everybody because everyone needs virtual events. But we do have exclusive other companies throughout the world that they've LinkedIn Live for LinkedIn events. It is in alpha and beta. We're happy to find out that it worked out technically. Shiri can know, and Adva and other people at LinkedIn will tell you how stressed I was about this not working out technically. It actually took us like 8 minutes to set up before you got on. You got to miss me panic while Ayala tried to chill me out. But we're here, we're live, and we're going to have fun, and we're going to talk about a topic that's sometimes tough to address. But before we go into talking about men and women in the workforce and how most importantly, I want to invite my guest, Shiri Grosbard. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? I think you can do yourself better justice than I can do.
Okay, so hi, thank you, and thank you for inviting me to do this. My name is Shiri Grosbard. I serve as the Director of Innovation and People Experience at AppsFlyer, and I'm also one of the co-founders of G-CMO, which is the forum, the community for global chief marketing officers here in Israel. I also started my own company called Join Digital Talent Agency, which is a recruiting company for marketing in the digital arena. And I'm very passionate about things that have to do with women in the workforce. And I hope this doesn't embarrass you all, but when he first came up to me and he says, wow, I read this amazing book. It was like, it really was a mind opener.
It opened my eyes, I know. And I know it was old.
Okay, and he says, it was mind-blowing, and then he said, lean in, which is, by the way, an amazing book. I totally agree, but very 2013. 13 actually was the first edition. But yeah, so for me, the concepts are, still valid, but a bit old, and I am happy that we've actually moved a bit further even and right. Farther. But I will say this, I've been giving a lot of women lectures in the past, 7-10 years, and I've only designated it to women. And then by actually an accident, I came in to give a presentation at SimilarWeb. I do that every once in a while in high-tech companies. And it wasn't just women, it was women and men. And it was kind of a shock, which was a good thing because then I didn't get to prepare and I just gave my usual talk. But what I realized is that the concept that were very clear to women, the other men in the room were actually, they were fascinated, which is great at first, but they were really curious and they didn't really understand everything. And this is kind of where this meets me, because I don't think this is like a woman or, men thing. Okay. The request for equality and justice is something that is, it's not a gender thing. We all should aspire to be living in a more equal society. But the concepts themselves, I have to say, I'm really happy that you read the book, Yoel. I wish more
Did I tell you
men.
how I read it? Did I tell you what happened? How I read
No.
it? I was in Philly visiting family. My wife's best friend was getting married, so we went over there for a wedding. And I landed on a Friday, and I was surprising my wife. She didn't know I was coming. So I did Shabbat with my brother and sister-in-law. And I was jet lagged, and I'm Shomer Shabbat, so I wasn't going to be on my phone. Which was actually one of my favorite things to do, is go through other people's bookshelves and read books that I would never stumble upon. And I was like, all right, I've been hearing about this thing forever. And I literally just, and I opened up to a random chapter. Or I went to the table of contents. I found a chapter. I don't remember which one it was. So the title interested. I thought, that's interesting. And I just started reading, and I just thought, okay, she started to make me think differently. And when someone once I started to think differently, it's my favorite thing of everything, really, is I love discussing ideas. I love when I start to think. I like when I get to challenge these things. One of my favorite things actually about this pandemic is a lot of my opinions on a lot of things have radically changed. I'm not talking about the workforce. I'm talking about
In general.
in general, right? Life for international trade, even, right? But so I had that opportunity, and that gives me like a high. It didn't help my jet lag because I was up all night reading, but that's basically how it came about. I heard of the book. I've heard about it. I understood the concept, and I've seen a couple of her lectures years ago, but it kind of started there and ended there. And so once I started to think differently, I thought this was a great opportunity for me to have this conversation. And that's where kind of you came in, and then I messaged Efrat, see if she knew anyone, and she connected us. So
Okay.
maybe we can, I would like to jump right into maybe just what you believe are probably the most misconceptions you think in general that women have about men in the workforce and men have about women in the workforce. Of course, I'll add to these things. I probably have a different perspective than you. So I think we can start there. And so what do you think are some misconceptions, let's say, men have about women and vice versa?
I don't think it's necessarily misconceptions between men and women. I would actually like to start a bit higher, and then we'll go down to that. What I think that the misconception, the first one, is to actually think that because you're a woman, and obviously we haven't had any luck technology-wise to have the choice between, if you're in a heterosexual relationship, it's not like you can say, okay, you know what? I did the first one. Why don't you take the second pregnancy? And, we'll see who does it better. And then maybe I'll take the third. This has not been invented. So there is kind of a built-in challenge to the fact that, if we do want, humanity to keep on growing, but still keep our job every once in a while, if we want to have a kid, this is what, life throws at us. But I'll go back to what I wanted to say. A lot of the times, often women who were with family, women who had children, they kind of expect the workforce to change for them because, now I'm a mother, I have to go out and pick my kids. But if we look at it, and put all emotions aside, this is a business, okay? The business is not supposed to say, okay, this lady has a baby and this lady doesn't, so she has to work harder or more hours, or she gets to go home early. I think that's an unfair request to kind of negotiate with your workplace, but wait for it, okay? It is a very valid point, okay, that now that I have a baby, that, I have less time and I have more commitment. My only problem is that this valid point should not be taken with your, manager, boss, working place. I think there's like a more closer place where we can start this discussion. Do you want to maybe take an educated?
Yeah, sure. No, I would like you to lead it, but I would like to add an example from a man's perspective. I interviewed a man who's a divorced father, and he said I don't remember, whatever, say Monday and Thursday, he'd have to leave at 3:30. He said, is that a problem? I'd come in early, I could stay later the other days. Obviously, you try to make it work or whatever. So obviously, these family challenges aren't for women only.
I'm really happy for this example because it's funny how this is met on the other side. Because when you meet with, I don't know, HR or whoever the person that you're meeting with about to finalize when or the hours of work. If you're a father saying, I'm a divorced father and twice a week I have to take my children, that's like, oh, that's so nice. What a devoted father. But for mothers, it's harder to say, listen, I'm a mother. I need to take off 2 times a week. It's like, it's met different on the other side. For men, it's like,
men, and is it, if the other side is if the other side of that on the receiving end, let's say the management side, for lack of a better word, do you think that's received differently, whether it's a man or woman, stereotypically speaking?
No, I think it's the same. It's usually women because, in HR, it's kind of a line of work or a field where I think 90% are women. But I do think that they're more inclined and, in favor and empathetic towards that great devoted father who takes his children twice a week as opposed to the mom. But I want to just close on the last point. I think this discussion should be taken first of all with your spouse, and preferably not after to the fact, okay, but way before, even at the stage when you're a young couple, you don't have kids anymore. Really need to discuss what it's going to be, what it's going to be like. And when I say this discussion, then I'm not talking about a hypothetical 20,000 feet up in the air kind of discussion, because if you say to your loved one, oh babe, how do you feel about me having a career? So babe is going to say, yeah, hell, course, have a career. But what does that actually mean? Okay. And when you go down to this, and I'm sorry for being petty, but when you go down to this and say, okay, how do you see us doing that? Because you have your career and I have my career and we want to have kids. How do we want to do this? And when you start thinking about it and say, okay, maybe I take it, I'll take twice a week. I'll go leave earlier and you'll take twice a week. And then I don't know, lucky grandparent, aunt, or babysitter will take them once a week. That just like this simple thing that I just said, this will eliminate a huge big deal in the workforce, because if men and women would just say, twice a week I'm leaving, we're done with that whole, I have to take my kid 4 times a week. Usually it's, oh, my husband, he's so helpful. He comes home once a week, he takes the kids. But, he helps you. This is your responsibility. And, either you have a helping one or you don't have a helping one. I think this whole discussion is wrong from the beginning. This is not me having a kid with someone who's helping me. This is us doing it together. And co-parenting means that it's not my responsibility and I'm hiring you for the job on Wednesdays. Okay? Just like any other company, we're sitting in the middle of the beginning of the week and we're deciding, what days I'm taking, what days you're taking. I think that if the discussion starts at the home, the whole working force will change accordingly. Like all revolution needs to start top bottom. So that was kind of my point. I don't know where it meets you, but I think this is a discussion that it's not that it shouldn't be taken with the workplace, but it should definitely be at your home first. And okay, so that will be my first thing.
So by the way, I agree. I try to make a comment for people. I'm only seeing a couple of some comments I'm seeing here in StreamYard. I just want people to know the technical issues. And I told LinkedIn, I promised them this feedback. This was part of the alpha that they wanted the live feedback. And other issues that we're getting some comments on actually on the live stream. So I might not be able to pull them up on screen, but I will when they come up. And Otadidlan says hi to you. We got a hi from Omri and Joseph, and we have people from the UK. So yeah, if I missed your comment, I'm sorry. If you want to send it to me privately on LinkedIn Messenger, I promise that I'll pull it up and I'll read it. So someone, I forgot where her name was, she left a comment in the event. And she said, shouldn't the title of your event be more about we didn't use the word diversity or equality in the event. And because my opinion, those that know me, I'm a very big individualist in general. And I think what happens was when we, as a society or people as a group, when we make it into more of a collective responsibility, no one takes responsibility in a sense, right? Nothing ever happens positive. It's all talk. I think what we need to do is first, kind of exactly what you were saying, as individuals, as families, as couples, and you're married, to discuss these things, and we have responsibility to our spouses. And if you're in the workforce and you have coworkers that might have these challenges, it's important that you as an individual have that responsibility and you bring that up. Do you think that people aren't taking enough individual responsibility and to try to make it work for families?
I think, and this is, I know this will be hard to hear even for the women, more likely for the women, but I think women are not taking that responsibility.
And how come?
Because you basically say, okay, I had a kid, it's mine, but you kind of forget that you had it with someone. This is not your responsibility. I can't stand the fact to hear about these women who says, oh, my husband's so helpful. This like helpful in what? In raising his own kids? Wow, what an amazing achievement. It's like, look, when we first thought about the title, I like the way, the fact that we said that we want to elevate and how men can help women elevate in the workplace. So I want to say a few things to that, okay? So most of the people that I talk to are people like you and me. I don't think that they're chauvinist men or anything. And here's the other thing, they'll all tell you, oh, but I have a daughter and I want her to be brought up in a better world. And, I have a wife and she's amazing. She's a manager and she does all of that. But when it comes down to, you need to hire a young lady or a young man. And a lot of the times, and again, I had my own recruiting company for 8 years. So these are discussions that I've heard them live. And the dude at some point will say, okay, but she's very young. She's just got engaged. Do we want to invest in that? She's going to get pregnant soon. And this is something that a man, and I'll say that a man that says about himself that no, in no way, he does not discriminate women. But then when it actually gets to the point where, even where we had a few cases where a woman was interviewed and then in the middle, long time, sometimes these cases take a long time till you actually hire, and then she got pregnant during that time, or she just said that she got pregnant. And I would say about 70% of the cases, they did not hire that woman. So what I'm saying is I see all these men and they're very prone and women can do everything and my daughter can do everything. But when it comes down to the crunching point and it's you on the other side, they don't act on it. So I call them like sado feminism, because they walk the walk, but they don't talk the talk.
Oh, it's because they walk the walk, but don't talk the talk.
Yeah.
So let's say you and I discussed this hypothetical privately. So let's say if let's say you have a very, very small team and you want to start offering, let's say, expand into a new service, and you need someone that has to be on for the next 2 years, someone that's going to build and lead a team. Basically, this person can't be replaced on maternity leave. Is it wrong that one would, let's say, try to discriminate against someone that they think might get pregnant in the next 6 months or year? Is it because it is human nature, because you want someone to build a team. If you have a large company, you can have the backups and things and you can make it work. But is it wrong to discriminate if you want to be competitive and you're worried about it? This is something I know that many men talk about privately.
I think it's the actual determination of the discrimination. You basically said, I want someone who can give me at least 2 years. If this woman gets pregnant, I won't get.
Right.
But for the sake of argument, if this woman gets pregnant, I won't get what I want. So you know what? Let's not interview any women for this position.
Oh, no, I didn't say that. I wouldn't say that. But let's say one that you think, let's say you just married a year ago and doesn't have any kids, and you're like, I don't know, so maybe I'll find someone who's single, or maybe I'll find someone who's maybe post-trial. We believe hasn't had. Hypothetically, I'm just saying these things come up. So,
but that's the thing.
I understand that. That's why I want to discuss it.
There's always that risk that this woman is going to get pregnant on me. Why don't I just, not take it, not go ahead and get into it in the first place?
Correct. What I'm saying is that these are conversations sometimes men have if they want to make a new department where there are no replacements. There isn't a junior or someone working under him or her. They want to bring in a leader, and they know that this is going to take an insane amount of work and attention, and there's no backup. To swap the individual. So this, you know what I mean? So it's a legit concern. I know other men have discussed this.
I agree that it is a legit concern.
How can we address this without discriminating is my question.
Well, like I said, when you address this, it is discriminating when you say, I want someone who can guarantee that they won't. And just by the way, there is no guarantee about anything. Maybe this woman won't get pregnant, but this dude will have something else, I don't know, happen to him or whatever. But here's also something that, and I think Sheryl Sandberg also wrote this about in her book, because it says something like, don't leave before you leave. I think that a lot of like the collateral damage around this pregnancy issue and having kids also has to do with us women. A lot of the times, you're pregnant, you're not sick.
No.
You're actually really healthy right now. You actually got pregnant, which is amazing. And don't leave before you leave. I mean, I said this often to women before they go on maternity leave. I said, do everything that you can so they miss you so badly when you're not there, and also, and this is just me, Shiri, just another.
By the way, that's a really great point. And this not related to the workforce, but in college, I got like I was going to graduate soon, and it totally you know what I mean? Sometimes you can, when you're leaving something in life, it's so easy to mentally check out. It's a human nature thing. And so you have to put in double the work. Sometimes if you're going to go away for a few weeks, it's normal to sometimes have a fight with a loved one to make it easier. There's some human nature things that are involved here, and it's difficult. You have to know that human nature is going to make me want to a little bit check out or become a little bit more distant. And we actually have to, like you said, you have to double down and do it. We got a great comment here from Tova Davis. It says yes to co-parenting and yes to both partners having a fulfilling career. Leaving work to pick up kids as a man or woman should be a non-issue. Do you think should it be a non-issue? Are there ever exceptions to that, do you think?
I totally agree. I think it's a non-issue because at the end of the day, and if Corona, and I'm sick of saying this, I always talk about what a great thing Corona has brought us, because I talk about it a lot, but it's not how many hours you put in the workplace. It's not if you left at 3, 4, 5, or 8. It's what you do. And I will tell you this, if you have to leave, that you have to drop your pen at 4 because you need to take your kid, that's fine. They'll go to sleep at some point. The kid will go to sleep at some point, and we'll finish what we have to do. That's taking the responsibility, and it also has to do with the pregnancy. And I'll give you I'll share something of my personal story. This wasn't joined. I had a previous startup, which was a lead generation for higher education. We opened it in 2004, and I had my first kid in 2005, and we were only 3 people. This was a startup. So again, this is not something that all women should or want to do or can do, but I did not take a maternity leave. We decided, this was before they had paternity leave. Yeah, I'm that old. My kid is 15 now. And we decided that my husband is going to stay. And I came back in 3 weeks because this was a startup. And we were 2.5 people. It was me and the other co-founder and, one worker that we kind of got to help us. So, women also have the choice to do things differently. The choice that we don't have is if we want to have a family, we don't have the choice to put it on someone else. We have to do it. So I'm kind of saying this in the don't leave before you leave, that also a lot of, the kind of the conceptions that men have around pregnancy is, oh, now I'm going to, not going to see this person for a whole year. It really is an individual thing, if you're.
It really is an individual thing. Everyone has different personalities and different goals, and your spouse can have different, how you relate. Everyone's relationship's different, and right, correct. I know some people, they do sales and they travel, and so it's very difficult when you have a husband who's there 2 out of 3 months, right? 2 months he's home, 1 month he's on the road. Everyone's different, and you're right, and we should be more accommodating. To someone else said, I think a potential upcoming maternity leave is short-sighted. Think about someone's ROI for the company over the next 5 to 10 years. I agree with that. I think one of the challenges is that people, just a side comment, not related to gender and workforce, people don't stay for 5 to 10 years anymore, do they?
It depends on the company. If you work in a bank, you're likely to stay 5 to 10 years, right, or in a Histadrut. But yeah, the average keeps going down. It's a year and 8 months for the millennial side. It's about 2 years if you wanna have a good record on your resume. It's about 2 years. But my mom has a comment, and we can't ignore my mom, right?
Yes, I know. Hers I can bring up for some reason. Ayala is sending me screenshots on that WhatsApp web, and I'm reading them off. So feel free to leave your comments, and I'll make sure to pull them up. Anyway, so Aviva's calling you out. Mom,
yeah,
says,
single mom.
We should totally touch that, because that That's very serious. So that kind of goes to, I told you, that divorced father I was interviewing. So I mean, how do you deal with that? Or in a sense, if, like I said, if your spouse travels for work and let's say they're not home for 3 weeks, in a sense, you're a single parent for those few weeks, right? So what are your thoughts there?
So again, and this might not be a popular thought, but my thought is that you need to figure out can we swear on LinkedIn? Like shit, is that okay
Yes,
or
yes.
no? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I actually have a whole opinion on this, but I'm not going to share it at the
Okay.
time.
So
You
I
can in
think,
video, not in text. That's my opinion.
okay.
But that's
So
Yoel's opinion.
so I think you need to get your shit together before that. You don't, again, like I said, it's not up to the workplace to say, oh, you're a single mom, oh, you're a single dad. So it's up to you to take a job that allows you the freedom to do, whatever it is you want to
Right.
do personally and professionally. That's A. But B, and I said it before, the working place will be more empathetic towards that dude that's single, a single parent who's a dad than a single parent who's a mom. We're kind of used to that one. And that's where I do say to society, but I take it up on women. It's kind of our bad job in taking everything on us and being okay with it. One of the things that I also it hit me that I need to speak to women, not, women my age or, even millennials who are like in their 30s. I need to talk to them when they're 15 and 14 and
Right.
start
When
implanting
when
these
they start,
ideas.
but people
Yeah.
don't plan I'm speaking from personal experience. Plan their careers, men or women. I feel like, I mean, I'm 34 and I've been in like 6 industries. I've been in finance, real estate, tourism. I sold insurance. I'm in marketing, I'm tech, and I was starting like, you know what I mean? Like, and now in the information age, it's, it's hard to plan these things. Life kind of catches you fast. You're never prepared for marriage. You're never prepared for children. And I feel like you're never really prepared for a career. No?
I don't talk to them about career. I talk to them about freedom of choice and how to get to your freedom of choice. And by the
Very
way,
good.
every time I stick about freedom of choice, I'm basically saying feminism and, quoting ideas from feminism. But people have a really hard time with the word feminism. So I just call it freedom of choice. But what I'm basically trying to say is don't go through the motions, don't go study, I don't know, whatever, because that's what your mom thinks is best, or that's what, you're used to do. And then you see the example of what it was like in your house. So of course, you feel that the children are your responsibility, and maybe you marry that helpful husband or whatever. And I think these are kind of the paradigm shift that we need to do. And it's not just career related, it's life related. And when I talk about how men can help us, I think there are three. I'll talk about it, one main subject. It also has to do with Cheryl, so I'll give her as an example. But one of the main things that are a real obstacle for women, and women really struggle with, is negotiations. Okay? If you don't agree with me, there are like so many books written about this.
There's a
Why?
lot of studies, and if you don't want to read a
Yeah,
book, you can Google. You can
there's
Google
a
it and
whole
find.
one, Why Women Don't Negotiate. It's actually a title. Okay? It's a whole book. Sarah Babcock and Linda. I'll get her name, wrote a whole book about it. But here's the thing, it really is hard for women to do negotiations. And here's an interesting fact. In 2015, they had a really large study in one of the universities, and they had women negotiate and men negotiate. And of course, the men did a lot better, except in one area. When they changed one parameter of the experiment, the whole thing changed. And then the women scored much higher, but higher than the men scored before. Do you want to take a guess at what they changed in this experiment that made the women so much more successful in their negotiations? Okay, I don't know if you're frozen because you're not
How many
one to
people
not talk.
requested higher?
No, so it's actually,
Sorry, I'm not one to not talk, but I am one to think.
yeah, I totally
Go
lost
ahead.
my train of thought. Okay,
What's the reason?
but no, they had the women negotiate not for themselves, but for someone else. And then the women did extremely better. You see, because when you go out and you fight for your kid,
Do you know like 20 things? 20 things just went through my mind about like.
Yeah, you didn't
like
think
20
it was
examples
going in
like
that
went
direction.
through my mind.
So here's the thing:
No,
women do
you totally
find it
threw me
hard.
off. It's so wise.
Okay, women do find it hard to negotiate for themselves. A, because we want to be liked, and we feel that during negotiations you need to put hard things out there, and maybe it will jeopardize my relationship with that person. Men don't think that way usually. They'll say, okay, I have to negotiate now. I have, a meaning. And I'll tell you a quick story. And we said lean in. So this is a Sheryl Sandberg story, and I really like it. When Sheryl Sandberg first got her contract from Facebook, from Markey, so she came back home. I think her husband was still alive, and she met with her husband and her brother, and she said, listen, I got this really great, contract from Facebook, and of course I'm going to take it, lots of money, whatever. And they both said, nope, don't take it. So why? So you need to negotiate it. So, but it's a really good contract. They basically gave me everything I needed. So what? And this is like a built, it's a change in how we view things. Okay. I think I gave you the example of that hospital in Iowa or something like that. They interviewed, I think it was 1,300 nurses, and they gave a pretty good package. But out of 1,300 nurses, only one asked to take the contract home and read about it. And actually, Lee Thompson, who was helping on this hospital, she's a world announced negotiator. She was so excited that, one woman finally out of 1,300 asked to take the contract home and read it. And she said, okay, this is a really good offer. Why aren't you taking it? And she said, oh, no, I'm not even getting into it. My husband said, no matter what the offer is, take it home and think about it. So this is a nurse in Iowa, okay, but this is also Sheryl Sandberg. So this is something really rooted, inside us. We really often people ask me about tips for negotiations, but it makes me laugh, because if you're a woman, you'll probably not even get into the negotiation room. There's people, like women, are literally not negotiating. Part of the reason there's a gap in salary, and this is really, annoying, is because women ask for less. And if you ask for less, from my experience, it's very rare that you would ask for something that people say, oh no, you know what, you're worth more. But women ask about 30% less than men on their third job, which is also annoying, because it's your third job. You're already, you've been around. These are women who have been in, I don't know, 5 years.
You had experience to ask.
Exactly. Right. So this is one thing that, so when we talk about how men can elevate women in the workplace, so first of all, I think awareness is the first step. When you know that, actually as a woman, like as a built thing, you're having a hard time with negotiating, well, of course, it's us women to develop this muscle and, keep trying, and it won't work for the first time, but you did it. And then 2, 3 times, 4, you'll get it. But men can help us with it just by being aware that this is very hard for us. Okay. And when we have to negotiate for one of our employees, and have them get a raise or something, we're amazing.
It's funny. You don't know how much wisdom you smacked down. So let's talk a few solutions, if we can. Okay. Are you okay with that? Like what we can do.
Sure.
So just shooting here from the top of my head. Maybe kind of like this one woman that took took it home because her husband said, no matter what, take it home. I think any woman and any man in general is a good idea, is you should sleep on it and take it home and at least negotiate and come back and ask for more, whether it's maybe a couple more vacation days or maybe some flexibility or partner or income or whatever it is definitely stop taking sleep on it. I think another thing maybe you can do is ask a friend, get a second opinion. You know what I mean? I think that's, and including a coworker. And also men should probably kind of like this one man said, no matter what, and women also should say to their husbands, no matter what, when you get an offer, just take it home so you can think about it and come back with an idea of how to negotiate, right? I mean, that's
I have another good one for you. I have another good one for you.
And there's employer side too. Yeah, but go ahead.
When women are asked, how much do you want to make? What's your salary expectation? They'll usually say a range. Okay, I want to make between, I don't know, 12 to 15, 20 to 25. Now, I've known very, very few, actually, in 8 years. I think I only had one case of a company that said, oh, no, we're going to give you the higher one because, you didn't ask for the right amount. But don't speak in ranges. And again, women do that because they feel uncomfortable. When you walk into the room and you don't feel that you deserve it, you feel like this other person is doing you a favor just by interviewing you. How do you think, this doesn't, come by in the conversation? If you don't feel you're worth it, no one else is going to give it to you. And when you talk in margins, you're going to get the lower margin. You know what? Because it's just good business. If I know I can have you for 15, I will not give you 20.
Correct. This is just good business. This is just good business.
So don't talk margins. Right. Don't be afraid to negotiate. And here's the third thing. This is like a thumb rule. Okay. So if you don't know what you want to, say for this, I say, say something about 30% higher than what you actually want. So that will give you room to negotiate. Again, that means that you have to negotiate. Negotiate means you have to talk about money. Again, an issue. You have to talk about how much you're worth, why you're worth that money, why it's a good investment for a company. Very few women can speak about it and really feel like, yeah, I own this. Look, you can't give me 15. I earn 20 because I'm bringing this and this and that into. It's hard for us. It's hard for us to say how wonderful we are at the workplace. And again, it also comes with the fact that when we walk into the room, we already feel a lot of the times like, oh, thank you for just giving me the opportunity. And, and even though I'm a woman and I'm young and I might get, knocked up soon, you're still considering me for the position. And when you go in from that inferior, kind of point of thinking, it's kind of doomed.
Yeah. Your friend, I presume, Etty Gazit over at, she does HR at AppsFlyer, she says she agrees with you and you're an inspiration.
Oh, thank you.
Brush that off right there. What's up, Etty? Great. Yeah, it is interesting. Now, let's say from the employer perspective, what do you, so just a quick recap about individuals and spouses. I think we covered some really good ground and we actually discussed solutions that we can take on as individuals and as families. Is one, don't give a range, give a number. If you're not sure, screw it, ask for 30% more. You will always be, the negotiating is going to happen whether you want it or not. So you negotiate more on your terms, so you're more likely to end up at a number or whatever you're negotiating, at something that's more towards what you want. You don't feel like you got the bottom end, the short end of the stick. It's your responsibility to negotiate. Also, you have a responsibility to help your friends, your spouses, to help them negotiate. And no matter what, make a promise to yourself when you get an offer, before you go in, so you don't get excited or worried or nervous, is that I'm going to take it home and I'll get back to you tomorrow. Is, I think, just a rule for all men and women for negotiating, so you can move yourself forward. It's thinking of things, sleeping things over is a healthy thing to do anyway, because sometimes we get easily excited in conversations and things in person, then you kind of you got to step back. This is for men and women. Let's talk for the
also another suggestion just for that one is just because we know for a fact that women negotiate better when you think you're doing it for someone else. And I know this is kind of like people are going to say, but think about it. Just really convince yourself that you're not doing this for yourself. Think about it. You're going to negotiate for your spouse, for your mother,
for your family, for your kids, your friends, for judo.
Yeah. So just think about that, and then maybe it will also change perspective. But Yoel, I want to kind of take us back to, we said, how can men help us?
Right.
So if you're a manager yourself, obviously you hire people for the job, and now that you know that, and you know that for a fact, you can take that in consideration. And again, I don't say go easier on her on the negotiate, but kind of confront and have them negotiate. Might not work for the first time, but you're actually doing them a favor when you say to them, you know what, go home, read the contract, give me your notes, and come back. That would be helpful. We also found that
you don't want to have them negotiate against you as an employer, but I think it is respectful. But I think it is respectful. So they say, go home, think about it, and let's discuss pricing next time. Like, I don't think you should, as an employer, you don't have an obligation to go against your interest, but it is in your interest that the person that you work with, you don't want them to commit to something when they were, let's say, excited or in the room or the first time, or they were scared to negotiate, is send them home. So it comes from a good place, even if you're still going to, let's say, draw the line. You got Efrat says here, Shiri, amazing insights. It's hard for us women to feel we're worth it. Any comments on why
Efrat is actually an amazing example for that, because she knows how to negotiate, but she knows her worth. And this is something that she's also being really helpful for other women to get to that point where they walk into the room and they feel comfortable and confident in what they have to offer. Okay. Just kind of like another tip, and this is in the workplace. We work men and women together. So as men, if you know that and you're aware of that, you can support a woman in the negotiation. Also, I actually think that we have like inherent, like we have built in, we have some I don't want to relate to it as like women versus men, but I think women actually find it easier to share. And a negotiation, and sometimes this is like a misconception, is that if two people fighting. And if you can get that person from the other end of the table to literally kind of come and sit at your side of the table, instead of going saying, listen, I've been working here for a really long time and I really want to raise, which is so hard for you. Maybe kind of going in a different way, and I call it sharing. Okay, like a sharing negotiation. It doesn't have a good phrase to it in English, about masao matan mishatif. Okay, and what you actually want to do is you want to bring the other side into your challenge. Okay, and you want to kind of say, as a woman, you want to say, okay, I've only started, I've been here for a year, I love it, I have so many things, going for me and so many challenges, but I want to kind of think of a next step. How do I get to be you? How do you as my manager can help me get to the next step? And now it's not a negotiation. You actually, you kind of recruited your manager to help you come take it to the next step. And I think if men, again, this is not necessarily a men or a women issue, it's like more of a manager and an employee. But if you do encourage women to negotiate and to go out for it and be specific, okay, these are the things that you need to do, then it's also clear for us what we need to do in order to get ahead. There's a misconception around women that if you do your job really well, then you'll be noticed and you'll be promoted. That's not the way it works. Just let me tell you, as an employer, as a person who hired, to do the best job that you do, like the 100%, the greatest job that you can bring, this is what we're paying you for. To get ahead, you need to put in another 20%, which a lot of women have a hard time to do with the constraints that we have.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Okay.
Is that your figure of speech, or you mean like literally like 20% more hour? What do you mean by 20%?
Again, time is a non-issue for me. It all goes to like responsibilities. Let's say that your responsibilities are just A, B, C, and D. If you want to get, better at what you do, then first master A, B, C, and D. But then why don't you take something else? Why don't you take X, Y, Z, which is out of your responsibilities, but it's interesting to you, and say, hey, I'm taking on this project, or I'm doing this and that. That is the extra 20%. And that is actually the thing that will get you that step ahead. That's a career. What you're doing, your 9 to 5, this is your job. You get paid for it. If you want to advance in the workplace and you want to look at it more as a career, you need to put in the extra 20%. And I think a lot of women think that if I do a really good job, I'll just do my job, but I'll be excellent at it, then I'll get noticed and someone will say, okay, she's doing a really great job. Let's promote her. And this is also something that women and men can do together, because I see a lot of the times, men come up with more initiatives on that side. They don't just take their role, they'll expand it. I'll take it from a different angle, and this is not funny, but it's funny. Okay, when I used to recruit, then let's say there were like 8 requirements, and I would speak to a woman, and she said, listen, I can't. You can't send my resume because I only meet 6 of the requirements. And then I speak to a dude, and he only meets like 2.5 of the requirements, and he'll say, yeah, send it anyway. And
this
what a
happened with my wife.
Conception. What a difference in conception,
It's very true. I told I hope she's not watching. My wife is an amazing photographer, artist, like amazing. Now, I'm not an artistic person. I'm very creative, but I'm not artistic. I didn't understand how good she was till I started looking at it compared to other people on Instagram, and other people told me. And she just has this incredible eye. And she thinks that like, oh, I don't have the right criteria to to do certain photo shoots. I don't have like the best lenses, and I'm like, and her iPhone captures better photos than most professionals especially when it comes to capturing people. And she has this creative eye, and I was like, you don't even need it. You can go there and charge a lot more than other people with your iPhone, with their lenses. Or she's like, I need to take this course to understand. It's like, you really don't. Like, people, the proof is in the pudding. And there was, and it's true. And I mean, obviously it's anecdotal, but I know you're speaking in more generalities, but it's definitely true. Carla says, we got great tips. This is an incredibly important conversation. Yeah, it's not an easy conversation to have, because obviously we're admitting that like us as a society and individuals and as families, like I just acknowledge like we're doing things wrong, right? And we have like a responsibility. We all need to like step it up in a sense. And that's why that's why, as you and I talked about it, I call this subject some taboo, at least among men, and you said it's more tough. But you said it's not taboo, it's tough. And I was like,
yeah,
Go ahead.
Because it's not
No,
something
go ahead.
that's not spoken about. I think we do speak about it. I think there's need to be a change, and like all changes, it starts with awareness. I'll give you another example, and this is not mine. It's Sheryl Sandberg, but not 2013. She was here last year, and she had like a fireside chat, and she said, just notice, yourselves as women, when you sit around and it's a conference room and it's a bunch of men and maybe one woman or two, because that's usually the ratio as you go up on the pyramid in the boardroom, and someone needs to take notes, and it would usually be the woman that says, okay, yeah, I'll take the notes, or one of the board members had a birthday tomorrow, so yeah, I'll bring the cupcake. You're not actually making them, you're just bringing them from the bakery or whatever. But we also assume a lot of these like roles and responsibility that also keep us in that same place. And when you say how men can help us, another dude in the room can say, you know what, no, I'll do that. And you know why? Because if you do understand, and this is something that we need to agree with, whenever I see a woman and a man, managers, okay, high-ranking managers who have done things in the career, and this is sad, but it's true. I know that she worked a lot harder to get there. Do you acknowledge that fact? So this is the awareness, where the awareness comes to mind when you're starting a new company and you see women managers and men managers. Just be aware of the fact that she worked a lot harder than you to get there. And if she wanted to have kids, then she worked like twice as hard. And if you're aware of that, you can also say, you know what? No, I'll bring the cupcakes. She has 3 kids. I have 3 kids. Right. We're the same. Why should, because she's a woman, then cupcakes are more like natural to her, and she takes better notes. But these are kind of things that we're doing for ourselves. Yeah, what?
Do you think men think that, or it's just the challenge is that women over eagerly volunteer for things that's not directly correlated with their job responsibilities?
I think it serves them. It serves them, it's a comfortable situation. If I was on the other side, then, maybe I would also like to think the status quo to continue, because it does benefit them. I think it's kind of like bias. If you ask someone if he's a racist, no, I'm not a racist, okay? But then you notice yourself, I don't know, in the store, and there's only one Ethiopian person, and you go and you ask him, where is the thing? Okay, and I'm not a racist, me? But we still do it. This is not something that is conscious to us. And I think, like I said, men are our allies, okay? You adore your wife. You just said how amazing she is. Men have daughters and sisters and mothers. I don't think that they're doing it from like a chauvinistic, misogynist, hating women kind of point. I think it's a blind spot, But this is...
Go ahead, I didn't interrupt you.
No, I was just going to say that these kind of debates, if one dude takes and says, wow, really, okay, I wasn't aware of that, and it's stuck into awareness, this is the way you get things to start going. And I think awareness is the first stage. And if you are aware to the fact that if you're sitting in a boardroom now and there's 1 or 2 women there, and most of the people are men, because we're only 9% of boardrooms, please be aware of the fact that she had to work really, really hard to get there, and see how you can help. That's the main issue.
So how can, just I want to recommend, I forget the name of the book, but Thomas Sowell, the economist, and he's a very well-known economist in the States. I'll find the book and I'll leave in the comments. So how, okay,
I can give another example for how men and women can elevate themselves in the workplace. Every March.
For sure. And I want to spend more time on employers also, because employers and coworkers, because often I think many men might be thinking, okay, how much can I help my wife if she's at a different workplace, or maybe she works at home, or whatever it is, and so they may not have that opportunity. But that being said, they have other male and female coworkers. So in order for us to actually maybe move the needle a bit, I think I also want to make sure that we have time to address, because I know we're going to finish up in like 10 minutes. If anyone has any comments or questions, now would be a good time to leave them. I want to make sure we definitely leave time more for employers and also coworkers. Yeah, what was the other example you're giving?
Every March 8th is the International Women's Day. And up until very recent, this was a day that the employer, the companies devoted to, pamper women and send them to a spa. And I think that's a real miss. And I think International Women's Day is a great opportunity to actually have conversations like this and bring the men into it. Like I said, this is not the battle of the sexes. The men are with us. And I also think it damages, men who do want to spend more time with their kids and want to be more domestic or stuff like that. So I think that there has been a shift in the last like 2 years, so that also in AppsFlyer, Women International Day was not celebrated with only women. We, of course, invited the whole company. You know, we also gave like a gift. So it wasn't like a woman gift. It was a book, Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls. Excellent book. Please read it to your kids. And we gave it to the men and the women. And I think that is part of the things. First of all, acknowledging the fact that you guys can help us. You know, we're not in a battle together. But the fact is that you know, there are more men managers than there are female managers, and that's why the awareness needs to get to that level. That's what I was kind of saying from an employer perspective. Be aware of it. I don't see it as like a diversity and inclusion at this particular case, but if you look at it from an employer sense of view, then it does have to do with diverse. And yeah, I think a company that has no diversion in their managerial, you know, men versus women, I don't know, it's a bummer, you know.
It's a shame.
I had a CEO once asked me, said, Shiri, really, do you think I should just bringing a woman to the boardroom just because she's a woman? And I said, yes. And he said, how? How do you see that? And I said, listen, we're bringing a different kind of thinking. And when you're in the boardroom and you're discussing something, you know, of really high magnitude, something really important, you want to get as many aspects of it. You'd get your legal there, you get your finance there, you get your operations to get all perspective. If you don't have a woman in the room, you don't have a woman's perspective. And yeah, we are different.
Correct.
We think differently. So just for that mere fact, you want to have more women in the room because you want to hear more sides to the story.
Diversity of ideas is so underrated. I know there's like a big push, which is good for diversity in general and race and skin color and all that's great, important. But more for business, what you need more than anything is diversity of ideas, which is why you want the legal expert and all that, and why is also you want women and men in the same room, because when people come from a different perspective or a different angle, you're able to improve. So what do you think we can do as coworkers to help each other? If let's say you have a coworker, I mean, you don't know, you don't think, maybe like how do you think coworkers can help each other?
I think, first of all, be aware of the fact and don't make us feel guilty, okay? You know that you have a woman on staff that has kids and maybe she's also a single woman and she needs to go home. Don't call her out for it. Don't be nasty about it. Don't be, okay, if she does her work, she does the work. Let's measure people by what they do and the value they bring and not how many hours they spend in the office. That's very outdated. That's once. Second thing is, again, be aware of that fact. If you know that negotiation is harder for women, yeah, if you can try to make it easier for them, help them, train them, give them tips. You know, we need to start using that muscle. Again, I know this is not really maybe so like solid, but I think every great revolution comes from top to bottom, and it starts with awareness. And I think that when we are aware of the fact that there are differences in the way that we are treated. There is a difference between, you know, us being in the room where decisions are being taken and not being in the room. And when you're aware of it, you can be more conscious of it.
Got it. So it's kind of as hard for coworkers, right? Other than like, I think the proactive, obviously, refrain from saying things that are wrong, refrain for not calling someone out because, let's say, it might be balancing work and home or things are going to go with, or if you're a single parent, refrain from those things. Anything you think, with the exception of, in addition to that, anything else you think we can do to help kind of push forward, push up in the career as coworkers? And then we'll touch on employers and management, and we'll finish off that way.
I think it's amazing that we've done 55 minutes without talking about sexual harassment in the office when it comes to men and women elevating each other. But here's another tip. Why don't you not sexually harass other co-workers? That will also be nice.
Do you want to define? I think it was what you said, is that if you ask a racist, they're a racist. You ask, you know what I mean? That they'll say that they're not, and the same thing. So maybe
elaborate a little.
You want to give something that's borderline, that some people might think is appropriate, that some women might find not appropriate, just so they say, oh, okay, I didn't think of it that way, I'm going to stop making, just, you know what I mean? Like, I think maybe
no,
you give an example of
I'm
something.
not even open. There's no example, and there's not any openness with me for this conversation. No sexual harassment. Period.
No, I understand. No. No, I think you
No, but I
misunderstood
just
my
want to
question.
say something, and it's really, it's so irritating. I am 42. Okay, I don't know anyone, not one single woman my age, not one. I literally, if you're one of my friends and you haven't been harassed at one point in your life in the workplace, please give me a call. That would be amazing.
I know.
Let's put you on a poster. There's
We have
no
the same
woman alive
problem. I
that
know.
age.
I know. I know several women, also my wife included, where I think a lot of people, they don't in my opinion, I know people who have, is that they don't think they are doing something that is inappropriate.
Which is even worse, by the way. But yeah, but
No, I understand that. That's my point. Which is why you need to. Which is why, like, okay, so you said earlier, like, if you're gonna follow someone, say, "Oh, I'm not a racist," but then they go and they do something that they think is not racist, or they don't perceive it. They have like ridiculous blind spots. So what I'm saying is, do you think there are any blind spots that that some people don't see?
I think that a lot of men say, "Oh, now that with all that Me Too movement, you can't even say anything to a woman that she looks pretty or something like that." And I think that's really reducing it. You can't say to someone, "Oh, you look lovely this morning," and that's great. Saying to someone, "Oh, this really brings out the contour of your body," you wouldn't say that to
Right.
your
Yeah.
dude
Yeah. No.
friend,
But
right?
yeah. But I don't
And
think.
it's not a
Right. But I don't
compliment.
think
It
you.
means you just looked at my body and like, I don't know
Right.
what went through your head, but it doesn't make me feel comfortable. And usually I would
When's the
like
last?
smile and
When's the
nod.
last time you heard a comment like
Oh, like
that?
when do you not hear comments like
That's
that?
usually, I find. I
All
mean,
the
we have a
time.
small office. I know that doesn't go around, but so
No, I'm not even
all the
talking
time. Okay. No, I'm just saying.
about this office, but listen, I've been in the Israeli army. The we've been grabbed. That's like,
Right,
we're
right,
not there
yeah.
anymore.
The army is yeah, probably different. It's a different
Yeah.
story. It's harder to fire. They don't have the HR, than
Yeah, it was good
the guys.
training towards the life. But really, these are like the off cases. It's just the mere fact that, if you want to compliment someone, then do it in a way that will make them feel good and not feel like you're a sexual object or you're looking
Right.
at me right now or my breast. That's
No,
not that I don't
that's
think, again, I don't want to speak to all womankind. Maybe there are women who enjoy that kind of attention. I do enjoy that kind of attention too. I like people to say, "Oh, you have great hair today," or whatever, but not in the way that will make me feel uncomfortable. If you wanted to
right.
give me a compliment, don't make me feel uncomfortable. And that's also a place, if we feel more comfortable, if you're not walking around thinking, what are people going to say or how they're going to react, we'll also have, I think, more success in,
Right.
advancing the things that are important to us.
So I want to say why I asked, and this came from a personal conversation I had with another guy like a while ago, over a year ago, maybe. Is that he said that, like, so a woman in his office was wearing like a really, really, really cool shirt, and he wanted to tell her, and it was like after Me Too, and he was worried that he couldn't even like communicate, say like, your shirt's really cool, it's got a cool. He's worried that like it might be misinterpreted because he wasn't like close friends with her, so he might not know, right? So that's kind of like an example that it's, you know what I mean. So it's like that's what I'm worried about, is that I'm worried that men might pull back a little bit out of fear of being easily labeled sexual harassment, want to give over a compliment.
Okay, but I'm
That's what
sure
I'm saying.
that
So
if your friend, told her, "Wow, that's a really cool T-shirt," it would have been just fine. And you know what?
probably, yeah, but he
When
was
there's a
withdrawn because
doubt,
he was worried. That's all.
when
Don't
there's
say
a
it.
doubt, exactly. If you're not
That's
sure,
what my
if it's
mom always
going to
says.
be,
My mom says, when in doubt, throw it out. She says that refers. She says that goes to speaking, or when you're or decluttering your house or anything in life. When there's a doubt, don't do it. I
I
think.
think if there was like one point that I would like people to take from this message, and I am directing it to men, is really just kind of understanding that it is harder for women in the workplace, and the higher we get in the hierarchy means we've worked harder to get there. And please appreciate it, and help us. We're fewer than you in the meeting room. A lot of the times, this has happened to me numerous times in old companies that I used to work with. I was the CEO of the lead generation company, and there were 11 CEOs in the media group. It was Internet Zahav at the time, and there was 11 and me. And I felt like in each time in the room, I would come up with ideas. They would get passed on, and then someone would say the same thing, and it would be a great idea. Now, I don't think that these were evil women hating kind of men. It was like this boys club, and I went in and I didn't fit in, but they could have done a lot more to like include me and not just take ideas. And don't ever take credit for something that's not yours. I see, again, this is not necessarily a man or a woman thing, but again, if you're in a managerial position and this is something that your female employee did, give her the credit for it, because a lot of the time she won't come to demand it. So that will be help.
Right. So let's get into,
because she's a woman or just shy about it, it's hard for her to come and say, oh, look, I did this great thing. Do it for her. Here's an amazing thing that this or that woman employee did. That can help us, that can elevate us. It's one of these, you went away for a second, but now you're here. Can you hear us?
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I hear you. I heard you the whole time. I think I just froze, and actually, you froze, but I heard you the whole time, so we're cool.
Okay.
Let's talk a little bit more about employer. Efrat loves your comment. She calls you a champion. Would you not sexually harass women in the workplace? When I said, of course, obviously that's not what I meant, but yes, it's an epic comment. So as employers, don't take credit. I think that's a good one, right? If it's not yours, I think this is, and of course, I think all of this advice goes for men and women alike, generally speaking.
Yeah, I agree.
It is.
This is a
Right.
general advice.
So,
don't take credit.
Right, and also, therefore, and men in particular. I mean, you have spouses and you have children and all that. So obviously, and you have coworkers and you have friends and everyone, and you have neighbors. So obviously, these are things that you can do. If you don't have challenges with these, you can help other people. This goes for women helping other women, and even men helping other men. So what else do you think employers can do? Do you think can help men? Yeah, men, women. Yeah, go ahead.
Men or women, or men help
women, but in general, okay. But I meant women.
Again, if this was a perfect world, I would say let's go for 50-50. Women are 51% of the population. Why don't we see some model of that in the working place? As a company, say, okay, I don't want to be a company that only has 20% women and 80% men. I want to be more of an equal company. And this goes especially for boardrooms, because again, this is where the actual decisions are being taken, the strategy, and then everything around it is just taking actions with the strategy that was decided up on that room. So I think as a company, if you don't have women on your board, I don't know, that's not good. I think that is definitely something that companies should aspire to do. And it's not like I have this magic solution on how to make women feel very comfortable. Again, I think it becomes with awareness. Be aware of the fact that although you consider yourself a very evolved kind of dude because, you have a daughter and your wife is great, but then when you're actually presented with a situation, don't be a douche about it. Remember? Your wife, your
right.
Mom, your kid.
Right. It's easy to forget, which is why I like giving exact examples, which is great. Shiri, thank you so much for joining us. I think we gave some really great examples.
Having me.
Oh, no, this was my pleasure. It's a great conversation. I think we shared what you can do as an individual, what you can do as a spouse, what you can do as a coworker, what you can do as a manager, an employer, and a hiring. I think we provided some really great values. We were really able to change some perspectives, and God willing, it leads to change in action. So thank you so much for joining us, Shiri, and thank you everyone for joining our
Thank you for the opportunity.
LinkedIn Live.